Blake Shelton may have the voice of an angel, but when it comes to serious decision-making, he's not the best at it. 2 decades ago, the country musician decided to embrace his inner bad boy and get tatted. The result? Lifelong regret over a permanent decision and a trauma so bad that it refrained him from getting inked ever again. Apparently, Blake Shelton went to get a tattoo of 2 pieces of barbed wires wrapping around his left forearm with animal footprints marching in between the 2 lines. But after taking one good look at it, Shelton declared it one of the worst mistakes of his life. Honestly, even we would be a little too scared if our arms looked like a wildlife crime scene. Blake Shelton reflected on his life's worst regret, a permanent tattoo. Blake Shelton is no stranger to bold moves, from winning hearts on The Voice to entertaining fans with country anthems. But there's one decision he wishes he could hit the undo button on: his tattoo. Yep, the man who sings about heartbreak and honky-tonks seems to have gotten his heart broken by his own arm. According to his discussion with CMT, Blake Shelton reflected on how he thought it would be a great idea to rock a barbed wire tattoo wrapped around his left forearm. Because nothing screams tough country boy like barbed wire, right? But then, as he added little animal footprints marching between those wires, it turned into a lifelong regret. You know, they say that tattoos are addictive. I got this tattoo about 20 years ago and decided it was, in the moment, one of the worst mistakes of my life. Considering how the result looked like a massive fashion disaster that's permanently inked on his body, Blake Shelton claimed to drown in immediate regret. As the tattoo appeared like a crime scene for animals, Shelton realized that it wasn't just etched on his skin, but it also became one of the worst mistakes of his life. In his career, Blake Shelton, a country music superstar and a long-standing coach on The Voice, has had a number of spectacular highs, including albums that have topped the charts, tours that have been completely sold out, and a fan base that appears to expand with each passing year. In addition, he has been involved in a number of public romances, some of which have been more prominent than others. These include his high-profile marriage to fellow country artist Miranda Lambert, as well as his subsequent marriage to pop superstar Gwen Stefani. But despite all of the success, popularity, and honors, Blake Shelton has admitted to having a big regret, one that sticks out amid his numerous accomplishments. One of the worst blunders of his life, which has haunted him for years. This regret has been a source of great disappointment for him to admit. It was not a decision that was made in a drunken haze, nor was it something that was the result of a hasty action. Instead, it was something that was more nuanced, something that was more indicative of the complicated nature of achievement, relationships, and the ever-changing dynamics of the music business. In order to have a complete understanding of Blake Shelton's regret, it is necessary to look back at a point in his career that was not so much about what he gained, but what he lost, and how that loss turned out to be one of the most significant mistakes that he would ever make. It wasn't exactly a smooth ride for Blake Shelton to get to the top of the music industry. While he was growing up in a rural area of Oklahoma, he learned the importance of perseverance and hard work. Beginning at a young age, he was captivated by music, particularly country music, and his destiny was established at an early stage. Following his relocation to Nashville in the late 1990s, Blake spent a considerable amount of time polishing his art before finally achieving success with his debut single, Austin, which was released in the year 2001. Blake is now considered to be one of the rising stars in the country music genre as a result of the song's meteoric rise to the top of the country charts. The path to success, on the other hand, was not always easy to navigate, and early on in his career, Blake found himself making decisions that would later bring him a great lot of regret. When Blake let the pressures of fame and the music business to cloud his judgment, he made the exact mistake that he has referred to as one of the worst blunders he has ever made in his life. During the early years of the new millennium, Blake was presented with a lucrative opportunity to collaborate with a large label in Nashville. This opportunity had the potential to be a game-changer for him. It would have allowed him to cooperate with some of the most talented composers and producers in the industry, as well as catapult his career into the stratosphere so that he could achieve his goals. As far as the surface was concerned, it appeared to be a dream come true. Nevertheless, Blake was still young and lacked experience. Despite the fact that he was hungry to achieve success, he was not completely aware of the sacrifices that were required to become successful in the high-pressure world of the music industry. Blake's error occurred when he signed the transaction without having a complete knowledge of the repercussions that would result from his conclusions. Excited and ambitious, he allowed himself to be propelled forward without giving any thought to whether or not the road that had been laid out for him was indeed the most appropriate one for his artistic endeavors. Under the terms of this agreement, he was urged to create music that sounded artificial, excessively polished, and disconnected from the authentic country roots that had first inspired him the first time around. Instead of producing songs that came from his heart and soul, he was faced with the pressure to produce singles that were in line with the current trends in the market. As a result, he sacrificed his authenticity in order to achieve financial success. Blake started to feel like he was being suffocated by a machine that placed a higher emphasis on numbers than it did on artistic expression as time went on. It seemed as though the music he was creating and recording no longer reflected who he was. The connection that he had with his own music, and more crucially, with his audience, was deteriorating with each passing day. In later years, he confessed that the contract he signed at the beginning of his career had a negative impact on his creative energy as well as his sense of who he was. During these periods of introspection, Blake came to the realization that the extent of his error was considerable. He had not only compromised his artistic ability in order to achieve popularity, but by doing so, he had alienated the very thing that made him unique, which was his sincerity. It is now that I am looking back, and I am wondering, why did I do that? In a previous interview, Blake gave a statement. When it came to making decisions of that nature, I was not prepared. I allowed someone else to tell me what I was meant to be because I was so hungry to succeed that I let them tell me what I should be. My sense of self began to fade away. It was one of the most horrible errors I've ever committed in my life. Blake was fortunate in that he was able to successfully trace his origins back to the things that made him stand out from others. Following a period of introspection during which he considered the course of his life, Blake ultimately chose to withdraw from the major label deal he had been offered. It was important to him to find a new path, one that would enable him to be authentic to both himself and his country beginnings. His soul and the things he had been through began to resonate with the music he was writing, and he started writing songs that were true to him again. Blake was able to establish a new chapter in his career by rekindling his passion for country music and storytelling. This new chapter would define his future and provide him with the opportunity to collaborate with some of the most talented individuals in the industry. It was a wise choice for Blake to go back to his roots and put his authenticity ahead of his commercial success. The results were extremely favorable. He began releasing songs that was both intimate and honest, such as Hillbilly Bone, God Gave Me You, and Drink on It. He was a pioneer in the creation of music. These songs struck a chord with his listeners in a way that was not forced, but rather felt natural or authentic. He was able to strike a compromise between the desire to create music that was authentic to his artistic vision and the desire to achieve the economic success that he had been unable to achieve in the past. With addition to his music, Blake Shelton's participation with The Voice has only served to further solidify his position as one of the most lovable and approachable figures in the country music industry. As a result of his genuineness and his capacity to establish a connection with the members of his team of competitors, he has distinguished himself as a coach who provides guidance that is founded on actual experience. As a result of the fact that he had to learn this lesson the hard way, he now speaks openly on the significance of remaining loyal to oneself. During a recent interview, Blake revealed, "I've been through the ups and downs, and I've made some mistakes that I'm not proud of." Blake's comments were stated without hesitation. But if there is one thing I've learned, it is that you should always go with your instincts. It is impermissible for you to allow anyone else to dictate to you who you should be. In the event that you do so, you will find yourself disoriented. One thing I will never do again is make a mistake like that. The moment that Blake allowed himself to be influenced by external influences and lost sight of what made him a unique artist is something that he has never forgotten. This remorse is something that he has never forgotten. It was a defining moment in his career, one that, in many respects, contributed to the formation of the artist that he presents today. Since that time, Blake has never compromised his artistic integrity for the sake of seeking popularity or satisfying the demands of the industry. He has remained steadfastly faithful to his roots. His current success is built on a foundation of authenticity and personal growth, attributes that continue to resonate with his fans, particularly those who have witnessed him develop both as an artist and as a person over the course of his career. The road that Blake Shelton has been on has been filled with great highs and challenging lessons, but the most significant one is the remorse that he has about signing that major label deal. This experience teaches you to be genuine, to have faith in yourself, and to understand that celebrity is ephemeral, but that your true self is something that will last forever. After gaining the knowledge that the only kind of success that is worth pursuing is the one that is built on sincerity, he has never looked back.